Bonjour and welcome everyone for the sixth race of the KBRN Truck Series from the Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here on Monday night, September 15th. Joined alongside me is Nate Polite. And boy, Nate, after the exciting first five races that we have had on this series in its debut series, we are now here getting ready to bring our sixth chapter in this journey. And boy, what a venue to go to. We can just continue to ride this momentum after an exciting race from Charlotte last week.
Oh, we're going north of the border, eh? 14 corners here in Montreal, virtual Montreal. It's an F1 circuit, but we're going to send these truckers out in these beasts, these behemoths of race trucks. They are not F1 cars. They're not going to drive like F1 cars. We're in for a blast tonight, Francisco.
Yeah, it's surely going to be a good one here from Montreal. And I haven't been to the city of Montreal. Would love to someday, but it is a very fantastic city just north of the New York and Canada border on that St. Lawrence River. We'll get a view of the track just momentarily. But Nate, very quickly, just kind of picking back of what we saw last week at Charlotte. What a race, what a chaotic race, and what a chaotic finish it was to the closing stages of the Charlotte race. We saw fuel mileage come into factor, and eventually it was Mikey Neal capturing his first win of the season. And as we look at this schedule, looking at what's ahead, we're now in the second half of the regular season. What are some key points to note on what we've seen so far, and what are some very important things drivers are going to have to focus on going forward?
Well, what we've seen so far, go ahead and throw it out the window. We've seen a lot of these, Las Vegas, Nashville, Charlotte, these mile-and-a-half oval tracks. Here we go. We're on a road course this week. Next week, we're on a dirt track. Then it's the tricky triangle. Nothing that we've gone to yet this season really plays into those tracks whatsoever. It gives me no idea what to expect. We have our generic road course favorites, right? Juan Escamilla, Nicholas Bauman today. They're great at road courses. They put on phenomenal laps all throughout practice. So they're, of course, going to contend today. But you notice they were not usually guys in those first few races this season that were always up there. We've seen, guys like Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, Michael Walls, Justin Rott, Alexander Schumacher have been the guys up front all regular season. It's going to start to turn on its head a little bit. This is a stretch where things can get really, really interesting and shake up that playoff bubble so much.
Yeah, that top three have really created a gap for themselves, top of the standings with Schumacher, Fall, and Walls, but all three of them are going to have challenges here tonight from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And why not take a quick look at the racetrack itself? Of course, we mentioned it's in Montreal, Canada, just north of the border. This track opened all the way back in 1978, primarily hosting Formula One racing here, and it still does to this day. NASCAR had its visits back in the day in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, last visiting in 2012. But Nate, this track, spectacular no matter what vehicle goes here.
Absolutely, and you see those long straightaways. There's a few of them. One of them is a little more of a curve away than a straightaway, if you will. But those are going to lead into long braking zones. You're going to see guys lock up the brakes. They're going to overshoot corners. You're going to see guys undershoot corners, perhaps a little bit of wheel hopping there and there. These trucks do not drive good on this racetrack, and that means they race really good. It's going to be a hell of a race.
Absolutely right. And I was able to put on a lap together that was edited thanks to Kenneth Bueno to kind of demonstrate what it's like to go around this racetrack. Not exactly the fastest lap I've ran here personally, but still just kind of showcases exactly what we could see truckers doing here. You're going to have splits between the onboard and off-board view. And that first chicane, very tricky. If you miss it, you're going to have to slow down a lot, nearly come to a complete stop to give up any potential time gain. This chicane, no joke either. You have a little bit of an elevation change right here, and if you're not careful, that's the outside wall.
Yeah, you run out of racetrack really, really fast. And that's one of those ones where you see F1 cars, you look in those cars, compared to this, it looks like they're going full throttle through them. But all these tight corners in these trucks, you got to use a little bit of curb to turn that truck, don't you?
Yeah, you have to use every bit of racetrack you can. Struggling to put the power down. The rear tires today are going to be a topic of conversation. And here's another critical braking zone. We could see some drivers go wide and end up in the grass. A lot of these runoffs now in the current day of this racetrack is now asphalt. They have bollards that you go past to kind of negate any time gain. But in this older stand from 2013, it's still grass. And then this one is going to be a big passing zone, this final chicane, which I didn't run too ideally, but in that line, you can really set yourself up for the long back straight for that final chicane, where you have to be careful for the Wall of Champions.
Yeah, that's one. It's a passing zone coming into it, but you can just as easily set up a pass down this back straightaway into Wall of Champions and up to the start finish line by getting a good exit out of that corner. We're going to see crossover opportunity there. That's going to be the action spot on the track, turn 10, the hairpin.
And that final chicane is so crucial. If there's anybody within arm's reach of each other, that final chicane could play a big role. And how many times in real life in the Xfinity Series did we see that final chicane play a role in a handful of races? I know that I can think of 3 off the top of my head where that final chicane just resulted in a last lap pass right in that dash to the line. But Nate, road course racing, it doesn't exactly equal the closest bit of racing. There's always drivers that look forward to it. There's drivers that maybe they don't look as forward to it as others do, but when you consider the challenges that it provides, it certainly brings out the best of the drivers.
Absolutely. You see drivers that, again, aren't always at the front on the oval tracks where you're spending a lot more time on the throttle, less time on the brakes. But you're seeing drivers who, one, don't make mistakes. You can be fast on these road courses. It doesn't matter if you're spinning out every 2 laps. That's not going to be fast in the long run. You can be able to put together super fast laps if you're in the race. So fast times in practice is one thing. We'll see if guys can translate that into consistency over the course of 37 laps here tonight.
It's going to be a challenge to see if drivers can translate that and bring some overall success. While we still have some time in our hands here, Nate, why not check out what's going on here with one of our drivers trying to set the lap time? This is Tony Kivet. He's already set his official qualifying lap, so he's still just kind of going out there putting on some additional laps. So this is the live feed, and there he is struggling to put the power down on that hairpin right there. And like I said, with the track temperatures going to be as high as they are, taking care of your rear tires is going to be the top of the conversation, because let me tell you this, after about 2 or 3 laps, you cannot accelerate for anything this truck has underneath it. And right here, as he approaches this final chicane, you might notice that is the pit entry. So it's going to be very crucial getting on and off pit road when the entrance for pit road is on the main racing line, which is not something we normally see.
Yeah, we talk about it. It seems like every single week this season, and all different types of series. Those green flag pit stops tend to catch people out and get cautions as people get into each other entering pit road. Not going to be shocked if we see that again tonight because of how difficult that pit road entry is here. I also want to talk about Tony Kivet. He's -7 on the playoff cut line right now, so he's looking to get a really good race in here to set him up on this back half of the season.
And this is the kind of run that could help him and his seasons get turned around, because like we mentioned, not as many drivers are going to be attending tonight's race as maybe some of the other tracks, just due to less ownership, and some may not choose to run these road course races. So for Tony Kivet, this could be the perfect opportunity for him to jump up and maybe get some more points than he otherwise would on any other oval track, especially if any of his competition may not be here tonight. So for Tony Kivet, he's probably not thinking anywhere near a race win, but that's not even the kind of thing that he would view as a success. If he's able to have a clean race and bring it home in the top 10 or 15, I'm sure the driver of the 55 will look at this and go, hooray, on to the next one, which is a dirt track. So it's all about picking and choosing your battles and coming away with whatever small victories you can.
Absolutely. When you get these small fields, you have got to take advantage of it. That's one of the things that you notice in any kind of league racing format, be it on iRacing or even back in the day doing racing leagues on PS4, Xbox 360, and the like. You got to take advantage of the races where nobody shows up. For a guy to not show up when you don't have the racetrack even here at Montreal.
And with that being said, Nate, drivers are lining up on the grid. Well, it's time to bring you the starting lineup from today's race from Canada, Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Where on the pole is the 76 of Justin Rott. He's a previous race winner this season, nearly got 2 wins back at Rockingham, but unfortunately the late yellow took him out. He'll start from the front spot just by slim margins over Juan Escamilla, one of those fastest trucks in practice. He'll be rounding out the first row of the grid. On the second row, Nicholas Bauman will be starting off from third, with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer alongside him in the 4th spot. 5th will go to Kyle Benson, with 6th place Alexander Schumacher looking to retake that points lead from the 7 and the 16. Which, speaking of, there is the 16 of Duncan Fall. He'll be in 7th. Look, keeping a close eye on the 68, with Craig Lautenslager in the 8th place spot. Gabe Cazzola with an excellent qualifying to get inside the top 10, and Tyler Murray rounds out that top 10.
Then we go back. It's Trevor Haley, a previous winner from the season, in the 12 car starting 11th, and Tony Kivet, who we just saw. Next to him, Craig Parks, Christopher Bishop line up in row 7. Then it's Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Curtis Kelly. And Kenneth Bueno and Charlie Byer, two friends of the show. More friends of the show, Keelan Belsha and JJ Hill in row 10.
And
It's
rounding
going to be
out,
Chris Progar rounding it out.
and Chris Kroger will be our 21st and final driver on the grid. So 21 strong here from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and that will be our field for tonight. You see a couple of drivers deciding not to take a lap time, and that is no accident, Nate. Some drivers elect to choose not to take a qualifying lap because they feel better about their chances surviving turn one without being at the front of the field and maybe getting some of the more dangerous end of that element.
Yeah, we talked about how difficult it is to get on the brakes into turn one under a regular green flag run, and that's when you're strung out. If you're doing it on a restart, that lazy spin into turn one, or locking up the brakes and just missing the corner entirely, it means you're pile driving, two or three trucks, and that could turn into an even greater stack up. So I definitely don't blame these guys for deciding they want to start at the back. But the trade-off is if it's clean in turn one, now you're struggling on track position. You're starting the thing off on the back foot.
You have to play your cards carefully and just make sure you do everything as properly as possible. It's a long race. It is 37 laps. We'll most likely see 2 stops here by most of the field. And the fuel window is about 15 to 17 laps, give or take. That's kind of the estimate there. So you're seeing just short of being able to do 1 pit stop. Wouldn't surprise me if someone tried to stretch it, but it might not be worth it with the tire wear we are seeing on these trucks. And oh boy, as they're getting ready to come onto this front stretch chicane and headed to the green flag. It'll be the first time I cover any race outside of the United States, Nate. I've only covered series within the 50 states, and this is going to be a first for me, and I'll get to do another one later in a couple of weeks' time when the 4Y series heads to this very racetrack. But as they round that final chicane and onto the front straightaway, it's going to be Justin Rott and Juan Escamilla leading us to the front of the field and to the green flag, and we're underway from Montreal. Oh, and some contact there. You see the 99 of Escamilla has to miss turn one. He was able to save it, comes to a complete stop. That's really going to hamper the 99's chances, as apart from that, all is clean through turn one.
Was not the finest turn one from Nicholas Baumann either. He lost the spot to Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. So it's Rott and Jurg 1-2 off of the start of this race. And who had that one coming after practice?
There's Gabe Cazzola with a great start to get all the way up to the sixth spot as he is sliding. Almost loses a spot to Duncan Fall. There you see some 3 wide further back. I believe that's Charlie Byer, who's making his series debut here tonight. But there you see everybody settling on out. Looks like Juan Escamilla is back in the 17th spot, so he has his work cut out for him. No cautions will be expected from tonight's race. It should be a green flag fair between now and the checkers, so if the 98 wants or the 99 wants a chance to win this race, he's going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, might as well have started at the rear there, and that's kind of exactly what you were talking about at the start of the show. If you start at the back, you're going to have to work through everyone in the first place, and you're not going to get run over and risk damage. It's going to be not much damage. He just locked it up on his own, as we got guys locking it up all over the place in the hairpin. That was right in front of Escamilla.
And that was Tyler Murray that went for a spin on the entrance to the hairpin. And he went around, lost a couple of positions that qualified inside the top 10. And a struggling start there for the 36, as Justin Rott will be the driver to lead the first lap here from Montreal from Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Nicholas Baumann, who was the fastest in practice, setting some really good lap times. But it's not about setting the individual fastest lap. How many laps can you consistently set at a decent enough pace to take care of your tires? That's what it's all about. And Justin Rott, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer are nose to tail, as it looks like struggling to get out of the corners. Justin Rott, he is slowing down.
Really slow.
I think he might have some damage. It looks like the right front possibly damaged on that truck, because he is still going pretty slow. Might have had a slowdown time, but I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, he relinquishes the race lead to Jurgensmeyer, and Baumann, who moves up to second. Kyle Benson up to fourth. Alexander Schumacher into fifth, and Ethan Fonseca Moreno gets through cleanly through those opening set of laps and has quickly gotten himself up into seventh.
Yeah, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, he's always a shark in the water, pretty much no matter where you go. So it's no surprise to see him making some time here early. And he's got a lot of more work to do, but he's got plenty of laps to do it.
Plenty of laps, and He made the toughest challenge, the toughest work, if you will, complete on that opening lap, gaining nearly 10 positions from the drop of the green flag. So to work from 7th to the lead, and the next 35 should be probably a little bit less difficult, all things considered. So good start right now for the 77, and a battle for second brewing as there's Justin Rott, who after whatever issue he may have had, is quickly mounting the challenge on the 88 of Bauman as they head down towards this final chicane off the back straightaway. You could see some drivers maybe try to peek out, get into the heads of another driver, try to force them into a mistake. No mistakes there from any of your top drivers as they get through cleanly. Look at Moreno sliding and getting into that wall of champions. Looks like he tags the wall, gets into the grass a little bit, but I'll say this, he was lucky enough to hit the concrete wall, and it won't damage his truck all too much, and he doesn't lose any positions. It's better in that corner to hit the concrete barrier than the actual soft wall, because that can actually wrap you in and really tear up your race truck, as I think someone in the back was possibly in trouble. Nope, it's just some battling going on outside the top 15.
Yeah, but that wall comes out and gets you, and one of the hallmarks of this racetrack is when you get up on corner exit, you run out of racetrack really, really fast. It may not be your traditional street circuit in the sense of they cut off a few city blocks, but it certainly is about as high as those circuits get it. We were on board right here. Look at how fast that wall comes up. You don't have a lot of time to get the gas down. You go to some other road courses in in NASCAR. They've got all sorts of runoffs that you can use. There's no escape here. Whether, some tracks they penalize, some tracks they don't. The penalty here is your race is over, your truck's destroyed. So you've got to stay very, very disciplined on corner exit here, especially out of these tight chicanes.
And there you see Rott peek to the outside as Bauman makes a mistake under braking the wheel hop. The wheel hop gets him. Look at Rott sliding the rear tires. Benson as well, but they'll both get past the 88. But that goes to show what I was talking about. Rott pulls out of line, and it's enough of a little bit of an impression on Bauman to leave him susceptible. Now Benson's looking to try and go after it. They'll be side by side going into this final chicane for second, and it looks like it'll be Benson giving way to Justin Rott here. He'll tuck in line, and they'll stay up there. Rott trying to recover after the issue he had at the start of lap number 2. And don't look now, but Gabe Gazzola's found himself up into the top 5, got past the 68 of Alexander Schumacher, and this is one of Gabe's better disciplines besides the super speedway racing. Gabe is a huge, avid fan of sports car racing and participates a lot in sports car events. He does all sorts of special events, official series with GT cars, prototypes, you name it. This is Gabe Gazzola's favorite type of racing.
He loves road course racing. I remember when it was Sonoma week, I think every single night that I hopped in the Discord, this guy was running Xfinity cars around Sonoma. He loves doing it. He loves doing it in these unorthodox cars where, again, it's not always about the speed that you can make, it's about how much control you have over the car. He's been good on road courses in iRacing. He's been good on PlayStation. He's been good all the way back to like NASCAR 15. You raced with him back then, friend. So this is something that he absolutely loves. It's a track that he had circled on the schedule. He said, hey, this is not only a race where I can go run top 5, this is a race where I can win.
I'll toot my horn a little bit and say that I was usually the one at the front of the field in those road course races, but his name was always there in the top 5 and always contending for a couple of race wins, and even got some for that matter from back in the day. But it's transitioned well for him. He's up here in the top 5 in the early stages, so we'll see if he's able to continue with this long run pace and keep this going over the next 30 or so laps. But a strong start for the 95 is exactly what the doctor ordered to try and help out his point situation. And Justin Rott further up ahead is starting to close the gap a little bit on Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. It's down to nearly 0.6 of a second, the gap between 1 and 2, but Benson's keeping up intact as well. And I'll be honest, Nate, the top 7 for that matter have not really separated. For how many laps we've been under the green flag, the fact that they're only 4 seconds apart is really impressive.
It's extremely impressive. It kind of tells me, again, these guys are saving tires. You might not be totally you might not be totally sure of what your truck can do, but if you're out in front, you don't want to go run as hard as you possibly can, burn up the tires. So you got the lead, might as well use it and just let those guys behind you push you. There's no reason pushing the pace when you're already out front.
It's all about racing the racetrack. That's probably the best expression. There's Benson peeking to the inside, but not really an actual move, just kind of seeing if the 76 will bite and make a mistake under pressure and make the job easier for Benson. But For now, it's Rock continuing to lead the way as you see Bauman drifting back just a little bit. He's under fire from Jake Mazzola for the time being, looking further back through the field. Battle for 18th. There's Tyler Murray going for the spin. Looks like contact with Keelan Belsha. That sends the 36 going around.
He found the one part of the track where you're not running into the wall when you get sent off of the racetrack. I just went and talked about how there's no room to make mistakes, and then there's the incident with the 36, and he finds a lot of space. It's a little physical with the 18 coming out of turn number 2. We'll see where the incident happens here. Oh, he's comes in way too hot.
Yeah, just
loops
goes
it
deep. Tried to go around the outside, but wasn't really quite there. Went off into the grass and lands him in some trouble. He was able to resume from 20th, but right now
it's fairly uneventful.
Yeah, it was a lazy spin there by the 36. Nothing too egregious, nothing that we haven't seen before done by other drivers, but unfortunately for him, it will cost him some more positions after what was a great qualifying effort.
It was an impressive qualifying effort from the 36 there, so disappointing for that to go the way it's gone here. Plenty of time, as it looks like we have our first set of takers on pit road.
Schumacher's going to be on pit road, so is Craig Parks, and this is, or Tony Kivitt rather, but this is not surprising. We talked about this race being a two-stop strategy, and honestly, with the way the fuel windows line up, you can expect pit stops any lap of the race, but you have to make two. So Schumacher going for an early stop now. We'll probably try to split this later, and that's something that could really play a factor later, is when you decide to pick who wants fresher tires, when do you want to be on the better tires. That could really make things interesting in the final run of this race.
Yeah, the undercut and the overcut, it's something you hear a lot of in Formula 1. We're going to hear it a little bit today, with the strategy being as it is, everyone's got to make the two stops. So it's just, like you said, when do you want the tires? And so if you're Schumacher or Parks here, it's the guys that were just on pit road. Clearly the idea is we're going to put on fresh tires right now. We're going to have 6-lap fresher tires in clean air to make up as much time as possible on these guys that are racing each other on older tires and dirty air. And then when they come to pit road, we'll assume the lead and we'll have an opportunity to defend. The delta there is they're assuming with the clean air, they'll be able to run faster times than everyone else will when they get their fresh tires on and are in dirty air.
That's right. Also, it's about sometimes just getting the better track position, not having to deal with cars around you and no pressure. So it's a good idea. It's not a bad move at all, especially when you know you have to make 2 of them. Get one of them done out of the way now, and you don't have to worry about it for another at least 15 or so laps of this race. There's Kenneth Bueno, who was a huge reason this track made it to the schedule. He is a avid lover of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve racetrack. Has always said for many years, Nate, that this is his favorite road course, not in the United States, and lo and behold, it's found its way onto the schedule, not just here, but in 4 wide. Tyler Murray said a huge reason why it made it onto the schedule was because of Kenneth. So in a couple weeks' time, on Wednesday, October 1st, on Keelan Belsha's birthday, we will be racing from Montreal in 4 wide racing action. Can't wait to participate in that one in myself.
Yeah, when your name's the name of the league and the name of the network, you get to have a little bit of pull and a little bit of say on what tracks you do and don't go to. But I love it. I love getting a road course in here. It shakes things up a little bit. It's a different kind of racing. Throw these guys, I don't think you can even call it a curveball. It might as well be a screwball or a knuckleball that you're throwing these guys when you set them on a road course. As it looks like Justin Rott has now lost second place.
Dick giving up second here to Kyle Benson, who's eventually got past, who was lurking for a couple of laps and finally got past the 76 at one point. Also, elite baseball reference, I must say, but sometimes you get thrown a fastball and you don't know what you're going to do.
Well, I'd say the fastballs they got early in the count with Nashville, Charlotte, Las Vegas. Those are the fastballs. Those are the expected pitches. You might say Rockingham was maybe a slider, but this is definitely something completely different in the repertoire. And then next week they're getting the splinker. It knocks it on the dirt.
Hey, as long as you don't strike out, I think it's a-okay. So we'll just leave the baseball reference here for now. Great stuff there. Look at Benson going too hard.
Coming in way hot.
And he actually makes that corner. That's a great recovery for Benson, as that clearly showed just how dangerous it can be for a driver to easily make that mistake going into turn 1. And that won't end your race, but it could end your shot at a win because of how much time you actually have to give up for missing that corner. It's upwards of 5 seconds, so you don't want to risk making that mistake, especially when Jurgensmeyer, who grabbed the lead on the second lap of this race, has not been easy to give it up. So Benson, moving into second, will look to try to put some kind of pressure on the 00 that he hasn't really faced yet in this race.
It was a stylish corner from Benson, but I can name 4 guys that are not too happy with how it went. Their names are right front, right rear, and left front. They're not too happy with it. They're screaming at him, perhaps, because of that. And I don't think Jonathan Jurgensmeyer's tires are screaming at him quite like that. But yeah, Benson, he's making a little bit of headway on the 00.
Slowly closing the gap. 8 tenths or so as of the braking zone. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who now sits in 6th after the pit stop by Alexander Schumacher, isn't really making too much of an imprint, but they're still relatively close done together, so it's relatively close. You see the gap growing now between the top 2 back to Justin Rott, who still has a decent bit of a gap ahead, but you see it's really the top 6 that have pulled away. Then there's that gap all the way back to the 16, or actually the 78 of Craig Lautenschlager, who's that first car all the way back there, kind of leading what you would call the second group of cars. So you have the top 6 broken away, and then the next group of cars led by this 78 truck.
Yeah, and these guys, I think at this point of the race, it's fairly clear that without a caution, already they may not have too much of a chance at the win. They're going to need to play some extreme strategy, and of course Juan Escamilla still working his way back through the field, and made a little bit of headway time-wise, but position-wise, he wants to get through this group of trucks as quick as possible, get in that open space in front of all of them and really try to make some time up.
Well, factually, Nate, there won't be any cautions thrown here tonight. This will be a green affair between now and lap number 37. So all it is about what you can do on the racetrack and your pit strategy. No yellow flags will be influencing the outcomes of tonight's race, which is not something that Juan Escamilla, I'm sure, would like at this moment in time. But all he has to do is go out there and try to earn it on the racetrack after qualifying on the front row. Currently has recovered into the 10th spot, but surely is wishing to try and get closer to the front of the field, which battle inside the top 5. There's Gabe Gazzola going past Nicholas Baumann, who appears to have made some sort of mistake.
Bauman's really slow.
Yeah, he made a mistake. It looks like going into that corner. There's Moreno now peeking to the inside of Cazzola. Cazzola will leave him the space, and those two will battle here. And depending who gets the better traction here, we could be on for a drag race down this back straightaway. Moreno will tuck in line and take advantage of whatever draft he can.
That's kind of what we talked about at the top of the show. You saw Cazzola completely give up the inside to Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Can't say I would have recommended that to anybody, giving Ethan Fonseca Moreno the preferred line through the corner, but it allowed Cazzola to get the power down a lot easier on corner exit and drive away, and you see him get a better exit than Fonseca Moreno there as well. He's going to hold serve on that position after a little threat.
And there's a little bit of clean air in front of the 95, about 3 seconds up to Justin Rott, with the gap between first and second sitting at half a sec. You see a battle further back. That is Juan Escamilla, Kenneth Bueno, and Duncan Falls. That's now the battle for the 8th spot. Bueno gets to the outside of Fall, who tightens up his line through turn 2, and that's what makes that first chicane so interesting, Nate, is that if you go too deep into the first set of corners, you really hamper your second set of corners, and Bueno, trying to make the pass, could possibly lose a spot here himself. As you see the room given by the 99, a little bit of it in the grass, and that's the spot for the 99.
Yeah, these tight corners, you really can't go too wide there. We saw both the 117 and the 99 get actually 2 tires in the grass either side of that little chicane they just went through there in turns 3 and 4. So really good job of them to negotiate that, because you see all the time guys get together because they both want to be all the way on the pavement.
There's Curtis Kelly now looking to try to attack Kenneth into this next set of corners, but backs out for now. And Charlie Byer just behind this group as well, making his league debut. Is normally the race control in this series as he tries to hang on to that truck off the chicane. Normally race control, he's making a series debut. He is also one of those drivers that enjoys racing road course races. It loves racing the special events. He actually races with the crew of Kenneth Bueno, Keelan Belsh, and JJ Hill the 24 Hours of Daytona, and they successfully completed their first trip of that around the clock twice earlier this year. And they definitely had a good chance to win it in those rain conditions. And it was mostly Charlie doing a lot of the heavy lifting in those rain conditions. He put in all that time, all that effort So he's a solid road racer. Right now sits in the 12th spot. If he can come up with a top 10 finish, I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
Absolutely. Get yourself in the truck for the first time all season and get a chance. And here's Duncan Faw making a little bit of headway on Craig Lautenslager. Gets to the outside. We'll see him set up this in turn 2 here. Lautenslager defends 1. Faw gets the tighter exit. Just going to get to the quarter panel. They're going to drag race this little short shoot to turn 3. Looks like Faw actually lost the handle behind the trees. You see him squirreling. Lautenslager's going to hold it, and Escamilla gets Faw.
And there's Escamilla now, who gets another spot up to 8th, and now he'll have his eyes set on the 78. Look at that gap closing in as they'll now set up for the next set of corners. Escamilla will try to cross him over. Look how much he tries to gain through the center. Kind of hurt him a little bit there, but you can expect this 99 to soon pounce his way up into 7th place spot, and then a lot of clean air. Nearly 8 seconds up the road to Nicholas Baumann, where he can start to lay down some pretty decent lap times.
And something I'm noticing with Juan Escamilla is he seems to be a lot more aggressive getting on the curbs than some of these drivers, and it's working to his advantage. He's like, yeah, guys, we're driving trucks. If I miss the curb a little bit and I get in the grass, that's fine. This is a Chevy Silverado. I'll be okay. And he's certainly willing to take the hit on the inside of these curbs and these tougher corners. We'll see the exit that he's able to get. Looks like he actually might have had a little contact there from Faw. Everyone stays with it. They're going to drag race down this straightaway.
And there they go, down this long back straightaway, but they kind of like like a spring. They accordion up when they get into the corner, but then they also expand once they get up to speed. So it's going to be very difficult. You have to exit with forward momentum, but Escamilla will attack this final chicane and try to get that forward momentum. He has a solid run, as looks like Kenneth Bueno is going to be the next driver to dive into the pit lane here on lap number 12. Juan Escamilla was not able to make the successful move. Actually, he will peek to the inside. Lautenslager will give him the spot, as he'll now have to defend from Duncan Fall. Those two will go side by side for these next set of corners.
Side by side behind Escamilla. Oh, they're baiting on each other.
Leaning on each other. Lautenslager will break later than the 16. Fall will try the crossover, tries to go around the outside, but looks like the 78 of Lautenslager not having it, as now Curtis Kelly tries to join the fight.
What a battle behind Juan Escamilla. He got past all this just in the nick of time, and a big shot to the rear bumper.
Oh, and this could get physical really, really quickly, as Fall is trying to do his best to get around the 78, who clearly has lost a little bit of pace in this long run. And there goes Fall, peeking to the inside again. Zone. Oh, the 78 out of control. He's going to miss this corner. He's going to give up the 16 and the 87 all at once. So for Craig Lautenslager, that did not work out well at all. And not too far behind this group is the 68 of Alexander Schumacher, who, there you see him right there, is in the 13th spot, already having made a pit stop. And he's been running similar lap times to your leaders. I don't expect him to necessarily jump up in front of your top two, which there's your top two nose to tail. But this could really work out for Shuey in terms of track position.
Absolutely. We talked about the undercuts and overcuts that you can do here with this tire wear, and Shuey is an example of that. He's in the cleaner racetrack. He's got fresh tires, and so he's running equal to the leaders. Now, granted, the leaders here are on older tires, so there's still, the difference in, being better at the track or not, right? No disrespect to Shuey, but there is absolutely a much larger skill gap when you come to these road courses. But when you can get on those tires and you can use that strategy to overcome these obstacles, it's going to be huge for you, especially when you're not just a battle for a playoff spot, but for the points lead.
There's the move by Benson to the inside, offsets the 00 for a little bit. That could possibly open up the door in the next couple of corners, getting within that extra car length. Justin Rott still sits within 2 seconds, and slowly, in all of this time, Ethan Fonseca Moreno has been running faster and faster, and slowly but surely closing the gap up. So don't discount the 077 from being able to battle, as Jurgensmeyer and Benson are putting on a good show here 13 laps in.
Yeah, they're all over each other. It's been about a truck length, but we'll see if Benson tries anything into the hairpin. He's late on the brakes.
Has to woe it down to avoid from spinning out. Look at him trying to hold on to that car as the first gear really spins up the rear tires on that 38 truck. But Jurgensmeyer is able to survive for another lap and grows the lead a lot bigger than what it was before. And this is currently our closest battle on the racetrack.
That was more of what we had talked about, the trade-off if you want to go on the inside of the path somewhat or the outside to defend. Because believe it or not, giving someone the preferred lane is the better way of defending the lead. And you see Jurgensmeyer get the better exit out of the hairpin. He also stayed off that second curb in Wall of Champions. Benson definitely the faster truck right now because he's already hounding Jurg again.
Well, I will say this, Nate, knowing that how sensitive the rear tires are as Benson really cut that first corner, is if you give the driver the inside like that on the airpin, they're forced to have to use more throttle to really get a decent run off the corner. And knowing how sensitive the rear tires are, they might not just have the ability to get that power down. So it actually is better going around the outside of the hairpin, just because you can get the power down a lot better than your competition and hold on to the position, as it looks like the first set of lap traffic will be the number 18 of Keelan Belsha just in front of this lead group.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's why I was saying that, the outside for defending in the hairpin is how Justin Rott's going to get on to Benson. Benson, he might have really hurt the tires there, making that move on Jurgensmeyer. He's fallen way back.
He might have had a slowdown penalty from that turn one cut. That's what iRacing will do.
Very well could have.
That if you cut the corner enough, sometimes it'll give you a 1x, other times it will give you a slowdown. Possibly a slowdown for Benson, considering that after losing the initial time, he's recovered nicely, as they still haven't gotten past Keelan Belsha quite yet. But pit stops could be expected soon. Like I said, the edge of that fuel window is closer to 16 to 17 laps on the furthest end of it. So in the next couple laps, you could see our leaders bring it down pit road. Alexander Schumacher, remember, was one of those first to pit. He is currently up to the 12th spot, 30 seconds off the lead. He should cycle somewhere inside the top 5 by the time it's all said and done. But we'll just have to see. But on the front straightaway, none of our leaders have yet to pit.
Everyone's still staying out there, and that slowdown, you mentioned it, the mistakes. It's more than just spinning the truck out. It is cutting the racetrack, and I feel like we talk about this every single week with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, but just watch the way he took those corners. Not abusing the curbs, not really coming close to cutting the track. Consistent, smooth laps. He's getting easy into the throttle, and it's worked out really well for him because he hasn't made a mistake yet today.
And let's go on board with him for a decent portion of this lap to see exactly what our race leader's doing. And what I already noticed is that he is not hesitating, shifting up, trying to use a little bit of lower RPMs to avoid spinning up the tires, and he stays through second gear in this portion, which will help the stability of the truck overall. Even though the tires are screaming, you can just see it and hear it. But he finally gets on the power once he's straight, and he'll power down this straightaway, get all the way here, and he lifts and coasts a little bit. He can go a little bit further than that, but he is taking it nice and easy. And that's exactly why he has not really made any mistakes, has compensated well, has kept those tires under control. And let's see what he does here entering this hairpin. Listen how early he gets out of the throttle and onto the brakes. Lifts before the car ever goes straight. And that's really helping him save those tires, save the being gentle with it all. And that's probably why he's out front, Nate.
Yeah, and if he doesn't come to pit road here, I want to see him take Wall of Champions as well, because I noted that he completely skipped the second curb the last time. Again, way early, late turn in a little bit of curb. Well, he took the second curb that time, but you see how much we've seen it all race. These trucks launch off of those curbs at Wall of Champions, and they get set way high, and you do that one too many times, one of them is going to catch you out. That's always going to upset the truck. It's a trade-off that you make to make some time, help turn the truck a little bit easier as well, but something is going to upset the truck if you keep hitting the curb. It's bound to happen. We've seen trucks spin out. I'm assuming that it could absolutely wreck your suspension if you hit it the wrong way. So it's been really nice to see Jurgensmeyer be disciplined, which is something he's, of course, very, very good at. I said we say it every single broadcast, it seems.
And look at these two struggling for grip. Right now is because it looks like the 18 of Keelan Belsha has trouble up ahead. Right front is damaged. He'll pull off the way and not be a factor for our top 5 runners. But Benson clearly struggling for grip. He went wide off of turn 1, and that put Justin Rott on his back bumper as they're slowly bleeding time off to your race leader. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno is slowly closing the gap on this battle. We could see Ethan possibly try to short pit and jump these two.
Absolutely, but we're getting to the edge of that fuel window, so short pitting might not even be a thing. It's 15 to 16 laps is the expected window. We're on lap 16. With how early we saw Jurgensmeyer was lifting, I guess you could have maybe squeezed an extra lap. I think it'd be pretty hard to come by So I would imagine we're all coming down pit road here.
We'll just have to wait and see what the drivers elect to do. You see that the 077 truck really gained a lot of time on this pair that's fighting for second. He could be there before we know it, but let's see if any of our top runners bring it to pit road. It won't be Juergensmeyer, and it won't be either of these two as they race hard going into the final chicane. But Benson's able to hang on for now.
Really
All the while,
interesting.
Ethan Fonseca Moreno continues to close the gap.
So that tells me that these guys have found an extra drop of fuel or two. But, I mean, again, we're still getting it. You talked at the top of the show that they might be able to try to stretch this into a one-stop race. Do you think that could be what's going on here?
Maybe they could try that, but I'm not sure if the fall-off is there for it. Tire-wise, I mean, we're seeing how much the pace has slowed down. Their fastest laps were somewhere in the 142s, 143s. Right now, a lot of your leaders are running as. Look at Rott in trouble.
Huge issue for Rott.
Looks like he may have tagged the wall there. Yeah, look, the truck is sideways. We'll have to get a second look.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happened with Justin Rott there. We pick him up. This is coming out of turn number 2. And he's slow there, and it's way inside of the corner.
I think he may have dipped into the grass. I'm not too sure.
It didn't look like there was any wall contact. He was certainly mowing the lawn a little bit, but really peculiar to see. But he's now fallen into the clutches of Gabe Cazzola, and he's really, really slow through this through the center there, bobbled
Struggling
as he went through the hairpin.
They're all struggling with tire wear and trying to make sure that they can keep everything they can under them. We'll see if pit stops are made this time, and the answer is no. So they'll extend at least another lap, and what this tells me is that they're within range. And there's Moreno. He's biting the bullet here on lap 17 to go bring it down pit road. Cannot get to the end on just this pit stop. He will have to stop again. But with Juergensmeyer and Benson pitting, I beg the question, Nate, can they try the one-stop? Will they try the one-stop?
I mean, mathematically, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they're going to try for a one-stop here. I mean, we've completed 17 laps. We're on lap number 18 of the race. That's essentially halfway. By the time they get back to pit road, it's going to be halfway. I just don't really understand the math of it. Why would you want to come down pit road at the halfway point of the race and then split the second stint into 2/3? Why wouldn't you just split the race into thirds to begin with?
Well, we're not behind the wheel to know exactly what the thought process is there, Nate, but you saw the difference there between Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Alexander Schumacher, who was the highest running driver of those who had already ridden down the pit lane. And that gap currently sits at about 5 seconds and expected to grow now that Moreno is on a lot of lap pressure tires compared to the 68. But this really worked out for Shuey. He had clean air, was not really battling anybody, so that's going to help his overall track position. And he does still have a pit stop to go in this race, much like almost every single person does. So we'll see how that works out for the 68 in the second half and how the tire wear fares out for him. But this is really going to be the interesting part, is if Juergensmeyer decides to pit this particular lap. And as they go by, it will be this lap for the double zero. And it will be for the rest.
This should draw the rest of the field to pit road.
Indeed so.
Rott,
Everybody in
Cazzola.
on lap number 18.
So now we get to watch the race off pit road. Here's Bauman coming in as well. And I really do think that they're going to try to do this race on one stop. Because they could try to split this second run in half and go 10 and 10. But for me, I just don't really see the math behind that one.
And I'll tell you what, Moreno did not take 4 tires on that pit stop. Whatever he did, it was a short stop because he's going to take over the race lead.
Extremely interesting call from Ethan Fonseca Moreno to take 2 there.
And there's the blend just in front of Moreno. May have taken 4 tires in the end of it all. Indeed he did, based off the 14-second pit stop, but that's 1 lap of better tires. That's just how good of an outlap the 077 had. Now he has warm tires and is all over the back bumper of your race leader.
Yeah, Jurg's going to have to defend really, really hard as the tires get some heat back into him. It was a really, really good undercut from Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Of course, the goal is to jump the position, but to jump that much time, a really impressive stop from the 077.
And I beg the question, Nate, since now we know for sure that nobody can make it to the end of the race without making an additional pit stop, what do you do in that next pit stop when you make it?
Yeah, if you're coming in one more time, I can't imagine you're going to take tires. I would assume you just take whatever fuel you need. Again, unless you're taking it and splitting this second run of the race into two and going 10 laps and 10 laps and then finishing the race on that second stint. It'll be really, really intriguing, and we'll see if there's any kind of really exaggerated fuel saving, which of course we saw a week ago. I mean, of course there's a lot more time you spend out of the throttle on a road course, but with how much throttling up you have to do and how much gear shifting you have to do and up in the RPMs, I just can't imagine there's that much fuel to be saved here. So it'll be really, really intriguing to see how these guys take it.
And fuel saving at road courses can come in the form of lifting and coasting, maybe upshifting earlier, not going to a complete gear at the end of a straightaway. So there's definitely a lot of ways to save. As long as it involves using less brakes, it can generally help your fuel savings. And that's probably why Juergensmeyer was able to go an extra lap than what we even thought was the edge of that fuel window, all the way up to lap number 18. And my math says if he's able to go an additional lap than what he did on that previous run, there's a chance. But even I think it was a really optimistic run to even get it to where he did. So we'll see if the 00 has in mind of going all the way to the end on his current fuel load. But for sure, the 077 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno has to make another pit stop. He might be committed to that strategy. We could see him try to split this final run to try and take the best advantage of 4 tires he can.
That would probably be the strategy that I would take if I was one of these guys that pitted at the halfway point of the race, just to have as much time as possible on the freshest tires possible. It makes the most sense to me. But if the spot that I actually wouldn't love being in here is the leader, Jonathan Juergensmeyer, because there's not really much you can do if the 077 undercuts you. You have to establish the strategy from the lead spot. We saw how much time he bled to the 077 with that first set of pit stops right there, and the difference between brand new tires and tires at the back end of a run. So you would think the 00 would have to be aggressive in his strategy. But how do you know? How do you read the mind of Ethan Fonseca Moreno when he's going to pit?
Yeah, that is a tough one to do. And look at Moreno sliding through that final corner, but he is still wringing the neck of that truck with now a 2-second gap between him and Juergensmeyer. But you have to think Moreno will try to put this kind of pressure on the 00 in that when he pits, either Jurg will have to pit the very next lap or risk losing the track position battle to Ethan, or commit to the fuel saving strategy. He'll have to back off about 30 seconds, but will that be enough for him to save the fuel necessary? It really begs an interesting question, and it all banks on when does Ethan pit and how much fuel can the 00 pit, or 00 save?
Yeah, and if you're Ethan, you're probably doing this same calculation just backwards, and you're thinking, okay, if Juergensmeyer is going to try to save 30 laps, 30, all the fuel to get this extra, lap in, and he's going to have to drop 30 seconds or so of pace, then what does that mean for me? What's the shortest pit stop I can take, and when can I take it? Can I just take enough fuel and think that the 00 runs out? Do I even need to take tires, or can I wait and wait and wait? And if my fuel looks bad, do I come in and top off a lap before Jurg can, and then hope he runs out? It's so many different things are going through these drivers' minds as they're trying to wrestle with 14 turns in Montreal.
So many questions, so many things to wonder here on the KBueno Racing Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be going side by side. You won't miss a single bit of the action. Right now, it is Jonathan Juergensmeyer leading the way, approaching 16 laps to go.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How you doing, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini. I have a hoagie. I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, where Jonathan Jurgensmeyer continues to lead the race from Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Kyle Benson. It has been an absolutely electric race, Nate, here from north of the border. And right now, we could be in store for what is a fuel mileage race of all things here from Montreal after some green flag pit stops, differing times of those stops. And we have no idea how this could shape up the final 14 or so laps.
Weeks of fuel mileage in a row. Who had that one penciled in? But yeah, we talked about it over the break, Fran. We really are kind of not totally clued into what the strategy is. We're assuming that Jurgensmeyer, Rott, Pizzola are going to be able to at least try, I should say, to stretch this on fuel. But Ethan Fonseca Moreno, he came in a lap earlier. I don't think there's any way that he makes this entire last run on fuel. You saw when we were non-stop, Alexander Schumacher came in for his second pit stop. We'll see the rest of those trickle in. It's going to be an interesting last 14 laps here from Montreal.
Absolutely right, and we'll see if Moreno pitting, and when he decides to pit, more importantly, begs the question of anybody else jumping ship. We could see some others maybe think, okay, the tires matter way too much, we may try to pit here, or they're going to go full on save and back down the pace as much as possible, since we know that they have to go 19 laps, or even 20 laps really, to be able to go all the way to the end. They were able to go 18 on that first run, so no matter what way you slice the pie, you have to go long for us this run, as Moreno continues to now close the gap on Jurgensmeyer, who's definitely saving up.
Yeah, the interesting note there is, with Jurgensmeyer saving, you would think that if Fonseca Moreno was just going to go all out for 10 laps and all out for 10 laps, he would have gotten at least to the 00, but he's not even made so much headway on him to even get within striking distance since they exited pit road. So it makes me think that Moreno might actually believe he's got a chance to save enough as well.
It's really optimistic to go 21 laps if you're Moreno on that tank of fuel. but it's also just depending on how you saved your technique for saving fuel on a road course. You might not bleed a lot of time if you do it in the right enough spots. And Jurgensmeyer, at least when we were on board with him on a couple of occasions, we were able to hear some really good selections on where he was lifting and coasting and really playing it careful with his truck, and it resulted in him at least being able to keep up pretty decently. Right now, the leader of those with 2 stops completed in this race so far is the 68 of Alexander Schumacher. He currently sits in the 10th place spot. Kenneth Bueno, the next truck, about 5 seconds behind, sits in the 11th spot. Then you have Charlie Beyer sitting 12th, Trevor Haley in 13th, Craig Lautenslugger in the 14th spot. A lap down in this race is the 55 Tony Kivet, 21 of JJ Hill, the number 36 of Tyler Murray, and 8 laps down with that damage that we saw earlier is the number 18 of Keelan Belsha. And there's Moreno continuing to close the gap now, half a second.
Yeah, he's gotten real tight up on the 00. They're catching a slower truck here as well. We'll see what Moreno's got in store for Jurgensmeyer. But a lap ago, I was saying that he hadn't gotten within striking distance. This is certainly going to be striking distance as they head to the hairpin. We'll see how aggressive Moreno wants to be. You see, he's a lot later into the brakes.
Oh, but look at that. He's going to have a straighter exit that could help him down this straightaway, but they will have to contend with that 14 truck of Christopher Bishop. It could give Jonathan Jurgensmeyer enough of a draft to either try to pull away or come up with some sort of fuel-saving mechanism. There's the 14 actually letting them by. So as we enter the final chicane, the gap still sits at half a second.
The class move from Bishop to get out of the way of the leaders as they race each other. Jurgensmeyer is still super smooth through the wall of champions, and that was the perfect visual right there. Jurgensmeyer took like no curb going through the second of those chicanes, and the 077 almost flipped over in comparison with how much curb that he took. So that's the praise that I've been singing of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer all race today, and I sing it every broadcast. The discipline that he's got, talked about it at Miami and SAC when he was able to hold the bottom, the fuel saving a week ago at Charlotte. It's something that he does perhaps better than anybody else, just being consistent, and he's being hounded. It's so tough to maintain that discipline for the 00 with that shark in his mirror, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and he's absolutely hounding him right now.
And with 12 laps to go, the pace has picked up. Jurgensmeyer earlier in this run was running low 145s. They've decreased that almost a second. Both of these drivers in the last lap have ran a 144.3 for your leader, 144.2 for Moreno. And the track, he's getting cooler, so they are able to run faster with the sun going down here in Montreal. But nonetheless, Nate, generally speaking, when you're running faster, you're burning more fuel.
Yeah, so that tells me one of two things, is that they've already saved enough fuel, which I don't buy that for $1.50. I think it's more likely that they realized we're not going to make it on fuel with this run. It's time to go all out.
And if that's the case, Nate, who's the first to bite the bullet and go for that second pit stop, knowing that if you're the first to pit road, it might give you the all-important track position for this race lead?
Yeah, I mean, if you come down pit road, you're the first to get fresh tires. There's your undercut. But then, is it at all possible, and I don't think it is, but throw the hypothetical out there, you take no tires, and the time that you're able to gain on pit road is something that you're confident enough to defend while that guy hunts you down?
Well,
I don't think that's the answer, but
honestly, I don't always look at Jurgensmeyer sliding through there. That's not helping his tires. But Nate, honestly, with the amount of fuel that they would need to even get to the end, it is certainly possible that they go for a no tire strategy, because if you take no tires and just fuel, you're probably looking at maybe 3 seconds of stationary time compared to certainly at least 9 seconds for a 2-tire call, no matter which side you take. Those 6 seconds honestly could make the difference. It just depends on when they decide to pit. And if those drivers go for 4 and you go for 2, again, depending which side you take, it could play all the important difference. So I think it's all a game of who's the first to pit and what do you do. And I don't think anybody's willing to show their hand.
Absolutely not. And is it selfish of me to want a guy on each different possible strategy here so we can watch that battle?
And I'll tell you this, Nate, as we've been on board for Moreno for almost an entire lap, I just want you to listen how early they get off the throttle. lifting and coasting at its finest. No wonder they're still saving fuel and able to run some really great laps. That's the lifting and coasting that I was talking about earlier, and you'll hear it to another perfection tune here at the end of this straightaway. And Moreno's getting a better benefit being in the draft of the 00. So as they enter this braking zone up here, listen. Look how early Moreno lifted there. Nearly 200 feet before the braking zone, he is off the throttle, letting the car slow down, and look how close he's able to get to Jurgensmeyer in the process.
Really fast through the wall of champions, abusing those curbs. He might have an opportunity to take a shot at the 00 here as they come turns 1 and 2. He backs off, doesn't make the attack into 1, but gets right close up to the rear bumper of the 00. Had to back off a little bit on the exit there. The 00 gets a better run out of the corner, so Moreno's got to woe it back up, but I think he's definitely got the faster truck right now. I'm not sure if that's Jurgensmeyer saving as much as he possibly can and only pushing when he has to defend.
Perhaps.
But I'm really struggling to see how they're going to make it if they're still saving here.
It's this is what makes us having a good time up here. We're not going to lose anything on their strategy, but they're the one absolutely crunching the numbers, making sure they dot their I's and cross their T's, and don't look too far back. Benson and Rott are still very much in this. It's really become a 4-truck race in terms of this battle for the immediate race win. Gabe Cazzola, 5th place, has done a great job. He's all the way back by about 14 seconds off the race lead, and then Juan Escamilla has done a great job to recover up to the 6th spot in this race after his lap 1 troubles from the front rows. Moreno will peek to the inside, not an actual move, but trying to see if he can fake out the 00. He'll try to get a better exit than the 00, and he just might. But that was a really, that really shows the entire process behind that move. It's really the dummy. You're not actually going to send it up the inside, but maybe the leader thinks you will, and that could open up a door for a mistake. But there you go. Once again, 200, nearly 300 feet before the braking, Moreno will lift off the throttle, let the car slow down with the engine braking, and that lap after lap after lap across nearly 20 laps could save you a lap.
It very well could, but it's crucial to remember here, Moreno has to save 1 more lap than Jonathan Jurgensmeyer does. He came into pit a lap earlier. That's why he's this close. That's why he's able to put pressure on the 00 like he has, but he has to save 1 more lap. Should he choose to save, that is.
Well, they definitely are saving, that is. We can hear it from their onboards. The question is, are they saving enough to get to the end? I mean, they're clearly trying to. They certainly are.
Yeah, that's... I should have clarified that one. Should they be successful in their attempt to save?
Exactly, because our ears are telling us the story that they are certainly trying to save the fuel to get to the end. The question is, will it be enough by the time we complete lap number 37? And it's really most likely going to come down to these 4 drivers at the front of the field. Like I said, there's Benson a little bit further back, and that's a great corner right there for Moreno, who'll get up right on the back bumper of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer.
He might actually be able to take a shot in the hairpin. He threw the dummy last time by, but we'll see. We're on board with the 077. Here he is. He's a lane lower. He's going to dive in on the 00.
Contact!
And it's contact at the apex.
Moreno will slow down and try to give the 00 the place back. Does not want to make the move. That way, Jurgensmeyer will keep the spot ahead after the contact.
I tell you what, Kyle Benson is licking his chops. More of that, waiter, please. He's now gotten about 2 seconds back. Gained a lot of time with that contact at the apex of the hairpin.
And you can tell Moreno wanted to make the move, but he was not going to make the pass with that move. He was perfectly content with letting Jurgensmeyer keep that top spot, maybe because he can save some fuel with the draft, but certainly because he doesn't want to do that to Jurgensmeyer, at least not in this stage of the race, with still 8 laps remaining.
It's not always a good idea to lay the chrome horn to someone, or the chrome door panel, I guess, in that case, if you know they can still get back to you and return the favor. Because if it's me behind the wheel and you give me the chrome horn, I'm not going to be too forgiving when I give it back to you. I'm not really going to worry if, you know, you're spinning or you just get knocked up a lane.
And they're going to have some lap traffic up ahead. It is the 21 of JJ Hill that they'll catch to put another lap down in this race. Or actually, that's not the number 21, but rather the 17 of Chris Progar to put him 1 lap down in this race, who's in the 15th spot. And Benson is slowly closing the gap on these 2 as well. He was over 2 seconds behind Moreno. Now it's about 1.7. But with Moreno having this good corner right here, it is setting him up nicely. Great runs going into this hairpin as Krogar will give way to the race leaders. Moreno not close enough to make a move this time, but that's what where you were talking about earlier there, Nate, is the 17 getting out of the way of the leaders who are battling for position, as there's Benson completely missing the corner, nearly getting into the 17 in the process, which I'm sure the 76 of Rot will appreciate.
Well, the 76 of Rod appreciated that, but he went wide himself right behind Krogar, who was trying to get out of the way on corner exit. So a couple of missed opportunities there for Benson and Rod, but I think right now it's pretty easy to say Ethan Fonseca Moreno is faster than Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Is it because he's able to be more aggressive from the rear and Jurgensmeyer is being more conservative with the save? That's a big play.
That's going to be a huge call. He'll be the first one of the front runners to pit. We'll see if anybody else will respond on the following lap if they decide to jump ship to this strategy. So let's see what the 38 does here on pit road as he comes to the stop in his pit stall. I do not see the jacks going up. It is fuel only for the number 38.
That's interesting because that lays the gambit for everybody else if they choose to come to pit road. Tires are not going to be a question anymore. We talked about it. Now we've seen one guy finally show their cards. That's not what you wanted to see. We've seen one guy finally show their cards. And so now we know, okay, I'm not going to be able to catch up to this guy if I go and take 4 tires. You could see 2. I don't think the time gain's going to be that good. It's going to be you save it or you run out and you come to pit road. And I think if you're the leaders, you might as well run this thing till it goes dry if it's even remotely close.
As there's Moreno now peeking to the inside, further up ahead than he was the previous time. Jurgensmeyer will give him the space. Moreno doesn't drift up nearly as much. Has the nose out in front. But who can get the power down as they remain door to door down this back straightaway?
Drag race towards Wall of Champions, but it's going to be over before they even get to the straight part. New leader, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's finally put a little bit of damage into the armor of the 00. Now we're going to see if anyone decides to pit.
No pitting, but they are side by side into the final chicane. Moreno with the better line, despite having the narrower entry, will take over the race lead. Nobody pits, but I also toss this question to you. Are they committed to trying to save to the end? Because even though they were battling, they were still saving fuel. Jurgensmeyer on that lap ran a 45.0 to Moreno's 44.5, so they have slowed down more than what they were doing before, and they were clearly saving prior. So this story may still have some chapters left in it, and it's not like Benson has a clear track in front of him either, because Gabe Cazzola was on the same strategy as these leaders, and he still has 6 seconds to go catch up to him and Justin Raw in third. So it's not like Benson could just ride around. He has to actually push the car and go up there and try to catch them, and that could hurt his tires even more.
Exactly, and he does not have the benefit of new tires. I mean, we saw what new tires were worth when they came in for their first set of stops, and so I was thinking for a second, if they were going to pit, they would have come in that lap. Benson didn't take tires, so we're going to still see pretty much every single time we're going to have our eyes glued to that commitment line. As now Jurgensmeyer gets a little bit of an attempt there, maybe the crossover on Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's close, nearly got to the quarter panel. He might try the outside a bit.
Has the outside Moreno protect the bottom, and that was a very dangerous move from the 00, I'll say, from the standpoint of he could very clearly get a slowdown from cutting that curb too much per iRacing, but Moreno stands tall in his defense. We'll hang on to the race lead, and we'll see if anybody on this lap of your race leaders decides to pit. The gap between themselves and Kyle Benson has not really shrank despite the fuel-saving efforts. As there's Jurgensmeyer now peeking to the inside, and that's going to be a strong move to go for the race lead. They'll make contact.
I think that might be the first time we've seen a pass for position at Wall of Champions this race, and what a job it was by Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. He said, you said I was too conservative, too consistent all race. Here's some aggression for you. Back to the race lead.
Wasted no time getting back to the race lead, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. And we'll see if they think they're good to the end. It's going to be very interesting because as we sit here with now 5 laps remaining in this race, Nate, can they go to the end? I think if they thought they had to pit, they either would have pitted by now or they're committed to possibly running out on the final lap.
Exactly. I think that's where you're at this point. You've made your bed. You got to lay in it. If it gets really, really dire coming to the white flag, you probably come down pit road if you're really looking at it. Because again, a win does not get you in the playoffs here. It's not to say a win doesn't matter, but it does not get you in the playoffs here. You're still racing for points, so you might salvage it if you're looking at your fuel at your fuel mileage coming to take the white flag. You're like, yeah, there's absolutely no way I'm making it one more. You cut your losses, come down pit road, but other than that, I think these guys are trying to save it, and they're going to run it till it's dry.
And how much fuel does System have? Because he has not been running the same lap times as your leader. Could the slower pace by Rock compared to the top two be just enough for the 76 to be under power enough on that final lap to just go through? Cazzola is still ahead of Benson as we stand right now. As we know, Benson, the highest runner of those, confirmed to get to the end. So we'll just have to wait and see. Juan Escamilla, on the other hand, his recovery efforts are up to 7th. On the one-stop strategy as well with a lot of other drivers inside this top 10, including Duncan Fall, who's still racing for the points lead after Michael Wall's not showing up here tonight. But there's your eyes on the top 2 as we look at Rott sliding through the final chicane. 4 laps to go.
Again, it's crucial to remember where these drivers are at on laps. I've said it a couple of times, and I'm going to do it again. Ethan Fonseca Moreno is 1 lap shorter than Jonathan Jurgensmeyer right now. That could be why the pace seems to have backed off since he lost the lead. He wants to get back in that draft, be able to use a little bit less throttle on the straightaways. So he will almost certainly come to pit road before before Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. If he has to come to pit road, I would be shocked if it was Jurgensmeyer to pit road before Moreno.
I'm just listening to the onboard from this 077, Nate, and he is lifting so early, and he's been doing that since, I would say, the 2nd lap after he pitted. You're going to hear here, he's going to lift about halfway down this straightaway, nearly 200 feet before the normal braking point. And if you do that lap after lap, that could save you enough fuel. But again, it's that you like you said, 1 lap earlier than Jurgensmeyer. If Jurgensmeyer's close, look at Moreno having to... He's stumbling, I think. Seems to be under control now. But that goes to show just how close these drivers are. I think he still has more fuel in it, but he was clearly trying to make sure that he lifted exactly when he wanted to, as he's well under power still. Trying to see if he can limp around for these final 3 1/4 laps.
I mean, imagine the stress. I touched on it a little bit earlier in the show, as it looks like Rott is way off the pace now from the leaders, really trying to save it. Of course, these guys are the drivers. They've got to contend with 14 corners around this racetrack. But now they're the crew chiefs too. It's iRacing. They don't have someone up on the pit box, right? They don't have their Steve Letarte. They don't have their Larry McReynolds up there. They're doing it all by themselves, trying to figure out what fuel is going to get me to the end. There's a little bit of help from, the math they've done previously. They have a set strategy, but it all goes out the window when you see what it's like in the race, and you got to figure all this out and keep their focus on the racetrack and not spin it, because it's not really been what we talked about a whole lot, because they've been able to keep it fairly clean. There is danger around every corner here in Montreal.
And the biggest danger might have been yet to come. There's still traffic in front of these leaders, but with about 2.5 laps remaining, the real question begs, do they still have the fuel to get to the end? Gabe Cazzola now sits just about 3 seconds ahead of Kyle Benson. And we haven't really talked about Cazzola in the second half of this run, but like I said, he's not been running the same pace as your leaders. So if your leaders run out anytime in a white flag lap, those drivers of Rott and Cazzola, they probably have enough in the tank to get back around. So it's these final 5 miles from this racetrack are going to be probably the most intense one we've seen.
It's super intense. Behind the wheel, the racing is not particularly close with the cars or the trucks physically, but the time is going to end up being close here. The fuel is the concern. It's kind of invisible forces, invisible strings that pull on the race, and it's all coming to a head. We saw it last week with them on top of each other, fuel saving at Charlotte. Now we're seeing it again in Montreal. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer is stepped away from the 077 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno with 2 laps to go from virtual circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
And now 2 laps to go here from Montreal. The gap still sits at about 3/4 of a second. But up and down this top 5, it's still the same top 4. nearly 20 seconds apart. We'll see if they have enough fuel. And or if Benson can catch back up if they do run out, but he still hasn't gotten past the 95. He still sits back in the 5th spot. There he is. And hasn't really made up any actual time on the leaders. The leaders have still actually managed to run the same as this 38. So really
Yeah, well,
impressive stuff.
he didn't pick the tires. So he's simply banking on everybody else not having the fuel to make it to the end. And he didn't put that much fuel in the truck. He's probably still having to make sure he's conserving just enough fuel. You know, but he's definitely going to have enough to make it to the end of this race, should everybody run out.
Benson's the only guaranteed one to get to the end, as Jurgensmeyer leads by about 0.6 of a second over Ethan Fonseca Moreno. The question begs, does anybody in this top 4 have fuel to get to the checkered flag under power to capture another win? Inside this top 5, there's only one current race winner, and that's 3rd place Justin Rott. Your top 2 have not gone to victory lane yet this season. Could it be 6 for 6 in this young season as we enter the final corner? There's Moreno. I think he tried to pit. I think he tried to pit there going into the final corner, and he will, so he does not have the fuel. He waited until the last lap. Does Jurgensmeyer have enough to get around? White flag.
Well, I'll echo what was said about the 2015 Cup Series Pocono race. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer is thinking, man, I wish I was saving a whole bunch that entire last run now that he knows Ethan Fonseca Moreno's out of fuel. There is a lot of racetrack between him and Justin Rott. It's going to be completely into conservation mode for the 00. Ethan Fonseca Moreno is simply making a defensive move. He's going to actually lose the spot to Benson. He is not going to have a chance to win this race.
And it doesn't look like he's going back out either, so it was a shot at the race win, and it is not going to stick for the driver of the 077. 2 lap cars in front of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. It's Trevor Haley and the 52 of Charlie Byer, who'll try to get out of his way. But Jurgensmeyer, does he have the fuel to get around as he's halfway through this final lap? The gap between him and Justin Rott sits at 7 seconds. That's the gap. That's all he has to contend with as far as saving fuel. He has been on this stint for the better part of 18, going on nearly 19 and 20 laps for the driver of the 00. And all he has to do is wrap around this next straightaway, and it might just be enough. No track, no cars on the nearest vicinity of the racetrack as this 00 of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who's driven a great race on his own right, and he could practically coast it from here after holding off Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Justin Rott, and everybody in the fuel-saving strategy. It is the one stop that works for Jonathan Jurgensmeyer as he wraps around the final chicane. He'll win from Montreal.
What a job. What a job to save that fuel. It was a high-intensity final run. It looks like perhaps crawling up the front straightaway here. Justin Rott's going to end up coming home second. It'll be interesting to see if Gabe Cazzola held on to the fuel for third, and
I think he's out.
He's found himself parked in turn 1.
I think
Look
he's
at
out
thing
of
1 and
fuel.
thing 2 come home 1 and 2.
Yeah, Justin Rott was able to take away the second spot. There's Cazzola, who did cross the line in third by just a couple of seconds over Kyle Benson. And we still have racing out on the racetrack. There's Nicholas Bauman, is able to take away the 5th place spot. Duncan Flaw should assume the points lead here from Alexander Schumacher with his 6th place finish, as Schumacher's there in 7th. That'll be a battle to watch. And Juan Escamilla, who had to make a second pit stop in this race, is able to recover up to 8th, what could have been for the driver of the 99, as there's Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who did leave back out on the racetrack, will actually take the spot here in that final run to the checkered flag. So it'll be 8th for Moreno, 9th for Escamilla, and for Kenneth Bueno, he'll be the last driver to cross inside the top 10 for a second top 10 finish of the season, as Jurgensmeyer still has fuel as he's rolling there on the front straightaway as he blinks out. What a result. What a strategy call, really, from the entire top 4.
Yeah, a couple races in a row we've had that strategy called. Last week, it was who's going to hit the go button first because we knew they could save enough. This week, we didn't know if they could save enough, and it was just so intense to the very end. We nearly had a disaster. coming to the white flag as Ethan Fonseca Moreno came for pit road. He almost ran over the dominant truck of the day, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, and that would have led to probably a Justin Rott victory. As it turned out, he was able to save the fuel. So lots of things could have gone wrong, but everything went right for the 00. I don't think he made a step wrong the entire race. I can't sing his praises enough.
Absolutely right. He ran a really fantastic race all night long, and it was a very meaningful victory for him to capture his first win of the season. Here are the final results here from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Brought here, try to get the graphic up to you in proper. And it'll be Jonathan Jurgensmeyer winning tonight's race here with about a 10-second advantage at the cross of the start-finish line, as actually the timing and scoring list Justin Rott, but it was Jonathan Jurgensmeyer that crossed the line in first. We very much clearly saw that. Justin Rott was able to come away in second. Gabe Cazzola finishes in third. It'll be Nicholas Bauman that came across the line in the fifth spot. It looks like post-race there was Benson and Jurg getting DQs, I think, while everybody was still finishing. So that explains why on our timing and scoring the results are not correct. So we'll just kind of read them to you as we had them when they initially crossed the line. So Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, your winner. Second place, Justin Rott with third. Gabe Cazzola, or third rather. Kyle Benson, you can see this is still throwing me off. It was fourth place goes to Kyle Benson. Fifth place goes to Nicholas Bauman. Sixth goes to Duncan Fall. Seventh for the 68 of Alexander Schumacher. Seventh to Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Eighth for Juan Escamilla. I believe ninth. Definitely got something wrong there because Kenneth Bueno was in 10th. Craig Lautensager will finish in 11th, and we'll try to see if the second half of our scoring here is any better. It does list Kyle Benson in there somewhere, but I'll try to read it to you as best as possible. Trevor Haley did round out in the, I believe, the 12th spot with Charlie Byer 13th. Chris Progar was actually in 14th with Christopher Bishop 15th. Tony Kivitt in 16th. J.J. Hill 17th, Tyler Murray 18th, Curtis Kelly in the 19th spot, Keelan Busher with the early troubles finishes 20th, and our final driver from tonight's race is going to be the 53 of Craig Parks. Yeah, just the post-race DQ is definitely throwing a wrench into our graphic and our timing and scoring here, Nate, but we do know that our race winner from tonight's is Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, Mr. Consistency himself, and it is going to be a first win of the season. Jonathan, congratulations. That was probably one of the more unorthodox road course races I'm sure you've ever ran in your iRacing career, but just kind of talk us through what it was like doing the fuel saving on both runs, trying to make sure you had enough drops in the tank to get to the end.
It was really tough, and I knew it'd be a fuel saving race when I got in the session. I saw the amount of laps and I looked at the amount of fuel. I knew that we'd be saving. So from the start of the green flag, I was pretty much lifting and coasting, and I made it up to second off the start. I made contact with Juan. I sort of wrecked him. I don't know. I have to look at it, but yeah, I was second after the start, and Justin made mistakes, and I got the lead, and it was so much easier to save fuel when I'm leading the race. So yeah, that made it a whole lot easier. I missed my number in the first stint. I tried to save one extra lap, so I didn't have to save it all in the second stint, but I couldn't reach it. So I had to save an extra lap in that last stint too. So yeah, it was really tough, and especially, I mean, there's no other guy in league racing that I'd rather not see behind me in this situation than Ethan. But yeah, we raced hard. He hit me a few times. I threw a wild little dive back at him. It was good racing. We do a lot. We have a lot of good racing with each other, and it's a shame that that he got that black flag and had to pit. But yeah, it's awesome to finally win a race here.
And I was about to ask about that battle between you and Moreno there. As you both were saving fuel, he obviously had to save a little bit more than you did, and you clearly had enough to go across the line and then some. But Jonathan, to sit there for 20 laps continuously, having to worry about running enough of the right pace and also having to hold off Moreno, as he was definitely challenging. Would you say that this one was probably one of your more strategic and at the same time hard-fought wins?
Yeah, most certainly. When you rank on my iRacing League wins, I'd say this one's probably at the top for
just how difficult it was. I mean, there's a lot of good drivers in this league, and just the race that I ran, I felt like it was almost perfect. Just able to hold the lead the whole time. And when Benson was hounding me, I was prioritizing that first place position because I know that it's so much easier to save fuel when you're leading, and that's why when Ethan got by me, I knew he had to save a lot of fuel. I knew he had to save a lot of fuel, so I I took my first opportunity at him. I just wasn't gonna let him sit there and save fuel in front of me while I was unable to pass him. So yeah, I just took the first opportunity that I got, and it was a really risky move, honestly. But um, yeah, it's awesome to get it done.
Obviously, Jonathan, a very elated win here, very ecstatic. And as you move on from this race win and focus now on the second half of the schedule, now you know you have that win. It's not a direct ticket towards the playoffs, but how do you look at these final handful of races before the postseason to try to build on a potential championship run after making it 6 different winners in 6 races?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of interesting tracks coming forward. Or I guess next week is the interesting track with Knoxville. I don't really know what to expect. I'm gonna have to buy that track sometime this week. But I mean, yeah, just working for the regular season championship, and I'm ready for the playoffs. Just trying to be as consistent as possible and rack up as many points as I can. And yeah, I think I could really make a charge at it. It's gonna be really tough. I know Justin's been really, really strong. Micah, he was unable to race today, but he's been really, really strong. And Benson, I mean, there's just so many guys that are just so tough to beat, and I'm just ready for the challenge.
And before we let you go from tonight's race win, Jonathan, who do you want to give a congratulations to, a shout out that helps makes this happen for everybody a part of your 00 program?
Uh, shout out to shout out to Justin. He got a pole at a road course, which is absurd, frankly. I didn't expect that one. He ran really well today. It's nice to see him second. It's also nice to see Gabe finishing third. It's just a really good day for all of us that we're working with. Shout out to Ethan. We had a really good battle. Shout out to Justin again. He made this paint scheme, and shout out to you guys for putting on the show.
Thank you for participating, Jonathan. Congratulations on the race win, and we hope to see you out here later this week on our other races on this channel. Once again, congratulations and enjoy this win.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
That's Jonathan Jergensmeyer, race winner here from tonight at Montreal. And what do you make of that, Nate? Just this is description of trying to hold off Moreno and save the fuel.
I don't know that anyone could have described it better than he did right there. Probably the scariest sight you can see in your mirror. Almost, I should say that the scariest, probably even scarier when he's coming in about 20, 30 mile an hour faster than you as he barrels toward pit road in the racing line.
Yeah, that definitely is a scary sight. I'd have to agree with you on that, Nate. But now we'll take a step back and talk to our runner-up finisher from tonight's event. You're caught up with him, Nate Polite.
Justin, congratulations on the second place finish. Finally get one of these to fall into a good finish. You had plenty of great runs recently. So what's it like to convert that into a finish this time?
Yeah, about time. I really didn't think that lap. I literally crossed the line on my qualifying lap and was like, "Well, that wasn't very good." And then I was 4/10 clear of everyone else, and then whoever was second was close to me. But yeah, so really good to qualify up front at a road course that I'm just not really great at. Normally Montreal, I've never driven this track. I didn't do any laps before the 30-minute practice session, so it feels really good though to finally get one to fall. Really, all the pieces. I made way too many mistakes on my part, but got lucky with Ethan and Kyle coming down pit road at the end, and built a really big gap on Gabe. So yeah, a lot of pace, a lot more pace than I'm used to. Like Jurg, I was pretty close to him on pace. I think it just hard to show when we're all fuel saving for most of it. But yeah, glad to finally get one to fall in my favor.
And of course, the fuel saving, the huge story of this race. How intense is it in the cockpit? We talked about up here in the booth, trying to navigate all 14 corners of this track where it's really, really thin and really, really tight. And you're also trying to make sure that you have enough, and you're trying to do the math in your head. So just take us through that entire last run.
I mean, really, both runs, like, we had to save, I want to say around a lap. I wasn't really doing much of the thinking. I was just looking at the numbers on my screen. Jurg was kind of thinking a lot. He wanted to save an extra lap on that first run. He wasn't able to, and then Gabe also. So we all pit at the same time anyways. But I was pushing. I tried to get fastest lap because I was really close one lap, and then I was like, okay, I can definitely beat that because I wasn't pushing too hard, and then I was like 3/10 slower the next lap. So I was trying to get fastest lap and lost a good bit of fuel. And I saved for a little bit and tried to. And when I was good or close to good, I started pushing again to try to get back up to Kyle, and then lost just a ton more fuel out of nowhere. So really, um, yeah, it's kind of hard to concentrate on both things. I didn't really worry too much about it though. I just kind of, looked at the numbers on my screen, and I knew I had a big enough gap to Gabe behind me that if for some reason it went haywire on the last lap and I had to save a ton, I made sure I'd have a big enough gap that I can just put the clutch in and coast that whole last lap if I needed to.
And so when the 077 of Moreno had to come down pit road, well, first and foremost, when he almost took out the 00, but also, did you think maybe at that point Jurg would have realized I should have been saving a lot more? Did you think he had a chance to even catch him there on the last lap that he might run out?
Not on the last lap, no. I mean, especially because we're in the call together, but he's really smart, so he never was going to let that happen. He's one of the better fuel savers I know, especially on the road courses. He won another race in another league a little while ago in the same manner where we had to save, but it was against the two stop, not just against each other. So, yeah, I knew I didn't really have a chance, and I was just chilling. But to stay like relatively close to them, I made a lot of mistakes, like really close to the end, but I stayed pretty close to them for most of it, Ethan and Jurg. So, better than I thought because I know how good they both are at road courses, and yeah, good to have speed on a road course though, and I think without as many mistakes as I made on that first run and the second run, I could have been up there with them, but it's a tricky balance between fuel saving and pushing in this type of race.
And before we let you head back out of here, is there anyone that you'd like to thank for the race tonight?
Yeah, thanks everyone who puts it on, Kenneth, Keelan, Charlie, Francisco, you of course, Nate, in the booth. You've done a really good job these last couple of races, so proud of you. And yeah, Gabe, Jurg, Ethan, they were in the call helping out. Duncan, Micah, congrats, getting married. Shout out Micah. And yeah, all the other teammates.
Thank you very much, Justin. Congrats again on the P2.
Thank you.
And that's Justin Rott there breaking the news to us that Mr. Michael Walls will be having a ring to his name, and not just his, but to a lovely future Mrs. Walls. This is my first time hearing about it. Did you know?
Well, I'd known he was engaged. And I know that he wasn't going to be here for this race this weekend. I didn't quite realize that if Justin's insinuating that's where he is right now, I'm not too sure. I'm actively asking about this.
There's a lot of insinuation on our part. We'll let Micah enjoy his time off. Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Walls, whoever she may be, but congratulations to the new Walls lovely couple. So we'll move on now to the third place finisher for tonight's race, which is none other than Gabe Cazzola, Mr. Road Course, a driver who enjoys racing on these types of racetracks. And Gabe, your first time talking to us in the booth after a top 3 finish. What was it like being a part of this strategy with this race, knowing that you had a really good truck underneath you to contend for a top 5 spot, but not just that, but also dealing with the fuel saving to have a chance at maybe going for that win?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a hard thing on road courses to try to stay fast and save fuel, especially here because it's not a track I run a lot. So it was a lot of learning as I went. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, especially on that first stint when I was actually sticking with them.
And Nate and I drew out the race. We were talking about how super speedways and road courses are definitely your domain. Those are the characteristics of tracks that you like to run. I talked about how you like doing all types of endurance racing, whether it's with prototypes, GT cars. That's all you do. So what is it about this kind of discipline that you like the most, and how does it transition to you with stock cars?
I think it's really just like the track time, especially at least the transitioning over to stock car, just driving road courses in general, no matter what it is going to help. But I don't know. I've always liked road courses. I've always kind of been good at them. So whenever there's one on the schedule, it's definitely circled on the calendar for me.
And now, Gabe, as we've completed the first 6 races of the regular season and now have 4 remaining, I don't have the point sheet up with me right now to tell you what they are post this race. They are complete, though, so I think they are accessible. You're certainly sitting in a good spot to try to go after a potential playoff spot. So now with these 4 tracks of Knoxville, Pocono, Darlington, and Auto Club remaining, how do you think you fare in these last 4 in order to try and push for that playoff spot?
I definitely feel pretty good about Pocono, Darlington Auto Club. Knoxville is definitely the big wild card there. I'm very inconsistent on dirt, but I definitely with the Pocono, Darlington Auto Club rotation there, I feel great.
Yeah, and as I take a look here at the point standings for the first time, it appears as though you just are only a handful out. It looks like
-8.
yeah, -8 there. So you are definitely with a fighting chance going into Knoxville in these last 4.
Yeah, no, I think I'm definitely able to make that up, especially because I missed a race earlier in the season. So I've been fighting from the back the entire time. Just if I can get some good finishes, it's definitely possible.
Results like this are certainly going to help your case here, Gabe. And before we let you go from tonight's showing, anybody you want to give a shout out to that helps make this happen for you, your number 95 team on this podium effort?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna shout out Jurg and Justin definitely because they were the ones who brought up the strategy first about saving, and after at that point it was just kind of talking with them, seeing where they were breaking, all that kind of stuff, and almost working together to where we could all make it, and we got the top 3 out of it somehow.
Thank you for your time, Gabe. Congratulations on your podium finish here tonight, and we hope to see you out next week in Knoxville. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Gabe Cazola, third place finisher here from tonight, Nate, and you hear it right there. Really happy with this result, and he's going to be looking forward to the next couple of events, trying to see if he can make that playoff push. Only -8, and he's not the only one in that realm. You look at everybody around that cut line, and it is really tight when you go below Trevor Haley. Really from 9th on back, starting with Mikey Neal. There's a tie for the final spot with him and Craig Parks. 2 points out is Tony Kivet. 4 points out is Colin Forster. 5 points out is Landslarger. Then you get to Cazola's 8 out, and even Moreno, he's tied with Moreno at 8 out. So you really have about 7 drivers there battling for what is realistically, as it stands right now, the final 2 spots.
Yeah, and we'll see how this shakes up. Of course, with the next run of tracks being weird, you run into the problem we saw today. Not everyone has the tracks purchased, downloaded, all of that. So we'll see who ends up showing up. We saw some big changes because of that today. But certainly the big winner, points wise, was Gabe Cazola. And Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, race winner and the points leader. And I have official confirmation it's tomorrow. It will officially be Mr. and Mrs. Walls. So congrats to Micah.
Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Walls on the fantastic ceremony that will be happening tomorrow night. Congratulations to that pair. I've known Micah for the better part of about 8 years now, so it's insane to me that we've all reached that point of our lives, but eventually we're going to get here. So just one more shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Walls. I hope they have a lovely wedding. But as we move now towards Knoxville and we look at the remaining races on this schedule, we talked about it. Knoxville, Pocono, Darlington Auto Club. That is a wild 4 different types of tracks, and like we mentioned, 7 drivers, 2 spots, and it could be more because of how unorthodox this combination of tracks are. But by the time October 13th is here and we settle down in Southern California, we're going to know who our 10 drivers are at the end of that race. Nate, what do you think is going to be in these final stretches of races before the playoffs?
Certainly we'll get some more winners. I don't know that it'll be 10 winners in 10 races. I think that there, but we're 6 for 6 so far. Dirt is a whole different beast. Darlington, Pocono are 2 different beasts. You got to think that a guy like Ethan Fonseca Moreno is going to find victory lane. We finally got a Jonathan Jurgensmeyer win for the season, but there's some guys. I mean, Nicholas Bauman, Duncan Faw, that are looking to finally find victory lane this season. Haven't done so yet, and they're at the top of the points board. It's going to be really, really fun to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, you mentioned it right there. A couple of drivers that have yet to have been to victory lane. Ethan Fonseca Moreno is one of them. Steven Maggio, Kyle Benson. These are drivers that have all had some opportunities to win races so far in this very season and have not yet done so. So you say 10 for 10 is very difficult to do, but honestly, it's definitely not out of the picture considering who we haven't seen gone to victory lane quite yet. But just our final thoughts here from Montreal. Great effort from everybody on the fuel saving, the different strategies. It definitely kept us on our toes the entire way through a road course event, which, historically speaking, Nate, from having covered many road course races in the past, are not generally that way. Usually see a lot of field separation, and usually the win is a runaway. And even though Moreno had to pit with 2 laps to go, the uncertainty of knowing if Jurg was even going to get to the line under power was enough to keep us on our feet the entirety of the 37 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a phenomenal battle between Jurg and Moreno. And you saw they traded the lead spectacularly a couple of times in that last run when they were saving fuel. And it almost ended in disaster for both of them as they nearly collided with Moreno coming to pit road. What a race. What a race. Canada served us well and can't wait for the next one up here.
It definitely didn't disappoint. Montreal did at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Fantastic circuit. Can't wait to be back here in just over 2 weeks when four wide action heads on over here on October 1st. If you want to join us for some more action here on the KBueno Racing Network, be sure to join us Wednesday night for the four wide racing TJ's Team Series race number 3 of season number 8 from the Nashville Super Speedway. Get ready for some Music City festivities there. Join us on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, and you can also join us on Thursday night at around 8:30 p.m. Eastern for the SAC Cup Series playoff opener from, I believe it is the Darlington Raceway there from on Thursday night. So it will be a lot of action this week, and then we also will be at Knoxville for some dirt racing. We'll have some possible heats to set up there, and we'll have all that getting ready to you this time next week, Monday, September 22nd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So on behalf of everybody here on the KBRN Truck Series admin team, from everybody on KBueno Racing Network that helps put this together, from Kenneth Bueno, Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, JJ Hill, Eli Comerford, Nate Polite, saying so long. I am Francisco Bacayao. Thank you for joining us here tonight from Montreal, Canada. We'll be back in the States later on this week, and we hope that you enjoyed tonight's race. So long, and see you.